I was never the smartest in the room, not the fastest either. But I was always the one who stayed late, the one who asked just one more question, the one who kept going when the rest stopped. That's how I made it here, out past the stratosphere, orbiting high above a world that once felt like it would never let me leave. Becoming an astronaut was the only thing I'd ever really wanted. Every job I took, every degree, every sleepless night running systems diagnostics or welding hull plates in those freezing hangars, all of it led to this. I wasn't a legacy kid. Didn't come from a family full of test pilots or Ivy League scientists. I came from outside Dayton, Ohio. My dad was a mechanic, and my mom worked nights at the VA hospital. I had to fight for every inch, but when I finally strapped into that seat and felt the vibration build under me, I knew it was all worth it. The launch was everything they say it is. Loud, crushing, overwhelming. I felt like my ribs might snap, like the world itself was trying to push me back down. But then it passed, and we were rising. Higher than the clouds, higher than anything that felt real. The moment we broke into orbit, and I looked down for the first time, I couldn't breathe. Earth looked fake, like a postcard someone had painted too perfectly. I couldn't stop staring. The curve of the horizon, the soft blue shimmer over the oceans, tiny lights where cities used to mean something. All of it just floating. There were 4 of us on the transfer shuttle, me, Claire Moreno, systems engineer with the Civilian Aeronautics Program, plus Lieutenant Jason Kearney, Dr. Nina Alvarez, and Connor Val. Good people, trained together, ate together, laughed through the worst parts of zero-G drills. I trusted them. We were headed to Aletheia Station, NASA's newest orbital platform. 40 permanent crew. State-of-the-art tech. Artificial gravity in the central ring. It wasn't just a research station, it was a self-sustaining habitat, meant to test long-term living for the next wave of deep space missions. The kind that wouldn't just visit the moon or Mars, they'd stay. I remember pressing my face against the window as we approached. Aletheia was massive, far larger than any of us expected. Long radial arms stretched out from a central hub, solar arrays blinking like glass wings catching the sun. It shimmered with clean angles and silver plating, almost elegant in how it moved with us. But that wasn't the only thing in orbit. A few kilometers off, floating on its own axis, was something else. Something smaller. Burned black along one edge like it had passed through fire and never quite healed. It didn't rotate naturally. It drifted. Even before I asked, I knew what it was. Eidolon. We weren't supposed to talk about it. That was one of the first things they told us in briefing. You follow the rules, you don't ask why, and you do not talk about Eidolon. They made us repeat it like a ritual. Still, I asked once. During our second day of orientation, I pointed at its silhouette on the orbital map. Commander Hellman barely glanced up from her tablet. She gave a tight smile, one of those expressions you practice in front of a mirror when you want someone to stop asking questions. Eidolon's not your concern, she said. That was it. They told us it was a failed prototype. Something built to connect with the ISS back when modular expansion was the focus. But the deployment went wrong. Systems failure, hardware degradation. There was a brief mention of crew instability, then nothing. The official story said it was non-functional and unmanned. But they never brought it down, never decommissioned it, just left it up here to rot. And yet, it was still tethered to something. Maybe not physically, but orbiting just close enough to remind everyone it existed. I remember staring at it from Aletheia's observation dome, watching as it passed like a dark phantom, its panels flickering in and out of view as if hiding from the sun. There was no activity, no lights, no signals, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was listening. It just sat there. I didn't know it then, but that thing, Eidolon, was going to change everything. My mission, my crew, my life. They told us the hard part was getting into orbit, but they lied. The order came without warning. We were scheduled for systems calibration on Aletheia's thermal shielding array. A routine task, nothing worth getting nervous about. I was reviewing module output logs when Commander Hellman's voice came through the station intercom, sharp and unmistakably tense. All personnel, stand by. Assignment Delta Echo 4 is active. Claire Moreno, report to briefing compartment 3 immediately. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Delta Echo 4 didn't sound like any code I recognized, and nothing on the day's manifest matched it. I looked around, confused. Jason gave me a sideways glance but didn't say anything. No one ever questioned mission orders, not up here. By the time I reached briefing compartment 3, the others were already there. Jason, Dr. Alvarez, and Connor. They looked just as confused as I was. The door sealed behind me with a mechanical hiss, and Commander Hellman entered a moment later, flanked by a man I didn't recognize. He didn't wear a station uniform, just a black flight suit with no name tag. No one spoke for several seconds. The man in black set a small envelope on the table in front of us. A red wax seal held the flap shut. I could already feel my palms getting clammy inside my sleeves. No digital file, no tablet, just paper. "You'll be boarding Eidolon Station in 45 minutes, the man said. Matter of fact. None of us responded. I know what you've been told. I know what you weren't told. That doesn't change your assignment. I couldn't move. Couldn't even think clearly. We'd seen Eidolon every day through the viewports. We'd joked about it in the mess, called it the haunted house next door. But no one ever imagined we'd actually step foot inside. Your objectives are straightforward, he continued. Retrieve 3 active data cores. Detach 2 external communication units for salvage. Verify orbital stability of the forward sensor array. What about life support? Jason asked. It's dormant, the man said, but power is still active in localized zones. Internal atmosphere is unstable. He placed a folded card beside the envelope. It looked old, creased in the middle. Someone had written on it in thick black marker. These are your survival protocols. 6 rules. Memorize them. You won't have time to ask questions once you're inside. He passed the card to me. I unfolded it slowly. 1. Enter only through the designated hatch. Do not attempt to breach any other access point. 2. Do not remove your helmet inside Eidolon. Atmospheric readings are unreliable. Exposure to airborne particulates may result in infection or altered cognition within minutes. 3. Maintain line of sight with your assigned partner at all times. 4. Do not respond to sounds or voices not transmitted through your comms. 5. Avoid all reflective surfaces. Rule 6. Mission time is strictly limited to 90 minutes. At 91 minutes, the shuttle departs. If you are not on board, you are not coming back. Each line hit me harder than the last. It felt like reading a horror manual, not official NASA protocol, but the seal on that envelope said otherwise. Why paper? Alvarez asked quietly, her voice thin. Why not send this to our tablets? The man stared at her for a beat too long. There are things inside Eidolon that don't like being played with. We went silent. 45 minutes later, we were in full EVA suits strapped into the shuttle. Jason was double-checking his gear. Connor tapped the side of his helmet with 2 fingers, a nervous tick I'd seen during stress drills. Dr. Alvarez sat motionless, eyes fixed on the bulkhead across from her. I was shaking. We launched without ceremony, no cheering crowd, no proud speeches. Just a quiet detachment from Aletheia's docking ring, followed by a slow drift toward the derelict mass floating in the distance. Eidolon Station. Up close, it looked worse than I expected. The hull was pitted and blackened. The docking ring flickered with emergency lights still powered by some decaying internal system. Parts of the station didn't match its schematics. Some sections looked newly added. Others looked partially melted. We hovered beside the designated hatch, waiting for the signal. Then the comms lit up. Docking seal achieved. Mission clock starts now. The airlock hissed open. My timer started ticking. 90 minutes. I remember the weight I felt in that moment. Not from gravity, we were still in 0G. It was something else. Like the air itself had turned thick. Like Eidolon was holding its breath. We passed through the hatch one by one, lights flickering over us. And then, we were inside. The moment I stepped inside Eidolon, I knew something was wrong. Not just weird or off, I mean fundamentally, unnaturally wrong. The kind of wrong your instincts pick up before your brain can catch up. It hit me like static crawling under my skin. The lights were on, but dim. Pale yellow tubes buzzed above us, flickering like they couldn't make up their minds. The airlock behind us sealed with a sharp hiss that echoed far too loud in my helmet. For a station that was supposed to be abandoned, Eidolon felt disturbingly intact. "Comm check," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Everyone online?" "All green here," Jason replied. "Same," Alvarez said. Her voice was tight. "Still breathing," Connor added. We moved slowly, our magnetic boots locking us to the deck one step at a time. My helmet display flashed with a basic internal map. We were just inside the central corridor, where most of the major subsystems branched off: labs, life support, communications. This should have been the station's brain. But every surface felt dead. Too clean in some places, coated in dust and strange film in others, like the station had tried to decay and preserve itself at the same time. Our team had split into pairs per protocol. Jason and Alvarez went starboard toward the communication hub. Connor and I turned left to retrieve the first data core. He didn't say much at first. Neither of us did. We were both too busy scanning each intersection, clearing each corner like we expected something to leap out. The station groaned softly now and then, metal expanding or shifting. But otherwise, it was quiet. No beeps, no alarms, just the hum of our own oxygen systems. "This place gives me the creeps," Connor muttered finally. I almost laughed. Almost. You and me both. The first data core was located in a maintenance bay. The door was partially open, stuck at an angle. I had to wedge my boot against the panel and yank it free. Inside, half the lights were out, and a floating wrench bumped gently against the bulkhead, like someone had just let it go. I pulled the core from its housing, careful not to jostle the relay lines. Connor hovered nearby, watching our timer. We had used up nearly 20 minutes already. "Core 1 secure," I said, moving to next location. No reply from Connor. I turned my head. He was still there, but breathing faster. The kind of shallow, rapid breaths that meant something was wrong. Connor, still nothing. My helmet comms lit up, but no voice followed. "Connor, come on, talk to me." Then I heard it. Not through the comms. From behind me, faint and cracked. "Claire?" It was my brother's voice. I froze. "Claire, please, help me." My brother had died 8 years ago. Car accident. Drunk driver. He was gone before the ambulance even showed up. I knew that. I saw the body. I attended the funeral. I was the one who scattered his ashes. But that voice, that was him. The same tone he used when he scraped his knee as a kid. The same breathy panic I heard once when we got caught in a thunderstorm in the woods behind our house. My mind screamed at me to turn around. I wanted to. I almost did. Rule 4, do not respond to sounds or voices not transmitted through your comms. I clenched my fists and kept still. The voice continued. "Claire, I don't want to be here anymore. Please." It cracked mid-sentence, drifting farther away like it was floating down the corridor. My heart was hammering. Sweat beaded along my neck and back despite the suit's internal cooling. I turned toward Connor, only to find an empty hallway. No sound, no movement. Just a faint hiss from the wall panel vents and the flicker of red status lights cycling slowly down the corridor. His tether, the one that had been clamped to my belt, was dangling loose now, cleanly severed. "Connor?" I whispered, my throat dry, no answer. I started moving. Carefully, slowly. My boots clicked quietly against the floor, magnetic seals keeping me grounded as I passed into the next module. Rule 3. Maintain line of sight with your assigned partner at all times. I had already broken it. I passed through a corridor that wasn't on the schematics. Pipes lined the ceiling like a nest of metal veins, and the walls were painted a darker gray than the rest of the station. I tried to ping my location, but my HUD glitched, flickered blue for a second, then shut off all positioning data. No map, no labels, just the clock ticking down from 67 minutes. I stopped near a viewing port, catching my breath. I turned to check my surroundings, and that's when I saw it. Not in the corridor, in the glass. A face. Lidless eyes, pale, stretched skin, lips pulled back in a stiff smile. It was staring straight at me, frozen, not blinking. Then another face appeared beside it, and another. All of them stared, all of them silent. I turned quickly. No one there. Just the hallway. Empty. But when I looked back at the glass, I could still see them. And worse, one of them was standing behind me in the reflection. Close. Closer than I could bear. Rule 5. Avoid all reflective surfaces. I squeezed my eyes shut. My breath came in ragged bursts. I reached out blindly and started moving again, one hand brushing the wall. 10 seconds passed, then 20. When I opened my eyes, the reflections were gone. But I wasn't alone anymore. Something was in the corridor with me now. I couldn't see it yet, but I felt it. A weight in the air. A vibration I couldn't explain. I kept moving. I didn't know what else to do. My hand stayed tight against the wall as I floated forward, the hallway around me growing darker the farther I went. The flickering lights had died completely behind me, and now the only glow came from the soft pulse of my suit display. Even that felt too loud, like the numbers on the timer were counting down in time with my heartbeat. 62 minutes left. I rounded the corner into what looked like a lab module. I could tell by the long metal workstations and the clusters of mounted analysis equipment floating gently in 0G. It was completely still. No movement, no sound, until something moved behind one of the glass panels. I spun, nearly overcorrecting as my boots slid slightly out of alignment. But there was nothing in the room. Nothing I could see, anyway. I glanced at the wall. The reflection showed the lab just as it was, except for the figure standing near the far station. It was hunched slightly, helmeted, wearing the same NASA suit design we all used. A dark patch stitched to the chest identified it. Rays. That wasn't anyone on our mission. The figure lifted its arm. In the reflection, it waved. I turned to look directly. Nothing there. My stomach twisted. My hands started to shake. Rule 5. Avoid all reflective surfaces. I shut my eyes and took a long, careful breath. Then another. I pressed my left hand to the edge of the panel, turned away from the glass, and started walking blindly along the wall again, dragging one hand across the seams of the metal to keep my orientation. 7 seconds. 8. 9. I opened my eyes. The reflection was gone, but the air in the lab felt colder now, like the station itself had exhaled. That was when I heard it again, metal scraping against metal. I turned just as something stepped through the lab's main corridor door. It was wearing a suit, same as mine, but wrong. Its arms hung too long, joints misaligned. The helmet was twisted slightly to one side as if fused to the skull beneath it, and through the cracked visor I saw skin. Tight, gray, stretched like old plastic wrap. Its mouth was open, lips drawn back, no teeth. Just a dark, glistening tunnel of a throat that didn't end. It reached for me. I screamed and pushed off the workstation. My body slammed against the opposite wall, boots scraping for grip. The thing lunged with sudden, jerking speed, too fast for its size. Its hand, no, not a hand anymore, dragged against the bulkhead as it moved. Long metal-tipped fingers left a streak of greenish-black residue behind, like oil or blood. I smacked the emergency seal panel as I flew backward. The bulkhead door slammed down between us with a mechanical shriek. The thing hit it an instant later, thud, and then silence. I curled up against the corner of the hallway, trying to slow my breathing. I don't remember crying, but I must have. My visor fogged despite the airflow system working overtime, and I could barely see the timer blinking red against my faceplate. 58 minutes left. I stood up slowly. I had to find the others. Jason, Alvarez, Connor, if there was even a chance he was alive. The comms crackled in my ear. Claire? It was Jason. His voice was rough, panicked. Alvarez isn't responding. I can't find her. She was just here. I turned around for half a second and now, damn it, I keyed in. Jason, I'm heading your way. What's your location? Near the starboard lab, he said. There's something, Claire, something's wrong with the station. The halls, some of them don't lead where they're supposed to. I know, I said, already moving. Keep your comms on, I'm coming. I pushed forward as fast as the corridor would allow. The walls started to change around me. Paint flaking, wires exposed, panels warped inward as if something had melted and reformed them. I saw no signs of Alvarez, no trail, but Jason's voice stayed ahead of me, echoing through the comms like a lifeline. Then came the scream, sharp, human, cut off mid-breath. I turned the final corner and froze. Jason was being dragged into the darkness by 3 of them. 3 figures in suits that no longer fit right, joints twisting at unnatural angles, helmets shattered but still attached. Their faces weren't human anymore. Just suggestions of what a face used to be. Grins carved too deep. Skin glossy with some kind of wet shine. Jason's boot scraped the floor once. Then he was gone. Alvarez was slumped against the far wall. Her helmet was cracked. Red droplets floated like tiny planets around her face, suspended in the air. I couldn't even tell if she was breathing. I didn't stop to check. Every part of me screamed to run, to get out, to move. I didn't look back. Every instinct told me to, but I couldn't risk it. I just kept pushing forward, boot by boot, hand by hand, using every surface I could grip to keep moving. My legs were shaking. My arms burned from gripping too tightly. But I couldn't stop. Not with what I had just seen. Not with Jason screaming in my ear one second and gone the next. The corridors twisted more the deeper I went. They didn't follow the layout we'd memorized during training. Some split off into angles that shouldn't exist. Others looped back on themselves. I passed a stairwell that wasn't on the schematics at all, leading upward into darkness where no other module should have been. I didn't touch it. I didn't even slow down. I just kept heading toward where I remembered the airlock being. I turned a corner and nearly collided with one of the interior panels, left hanging loose, dangling like a broken jaw. A series of long, oily smears streaked across the floor beneath it, curving like drag marks. I stepped over them carefully, trying not to breathe too loud. My timer read 17 minutes. That meant I'd been inside over an hour, and I still hadn't seen Connor again. I told myself he was fine, that maybe he'd made it back to the shuttle already, that maybe he was watching the clock too, waiting to leave with or without us. But I didn't believe it. There was no sign of him, no signal, no voice. At least not from the comms. I started to hear him again at 14 minutes, his voice, soft, familiar, Claire, but it wasn't coming from my helmet, it came from the hallway. Claire, I'm here, I need you. It was perfect. Too perfect. No static, no distortion. Just Connor's voice, the exact tone he used when we first met during module integration training back on Earth. Calm, clear, a little nervous. Don't leave me behind. Rule 4, do not respond to sounds or voices not transmitted through your comms. I clamped my mouth shut and kept walking. Every step closer to the airlock felt like walking uphill underwater. The gravity was artificial, but the pressure wasn't. It pressed against my suit from all sides, thick and crushing. I thought about Alvarez, slumped with blood blooming in the air. I thought about Jason's body, disappearing into the dark. I thought about the three of them, grinning, wearing suits like ours, wearing faces like ours. When I reached the docking corridor, I finally let out a breath. The airlock was still open, the shuttle was still docked, and someone was floating in front of it. Connor? It was him. I almost said it out loud. He was facing me, arms stretched slightly, as if waiting for me to grab his hands and pull him back, but his helmet was missing. His hair floated around his face like a cloud. His eyes, they were wide open, empty, no movement. No breathing. He raised one hand and waved at me. Then another figure stepped out from the shadows behind him. My stomach dropped. It was me. Or, at least, it looked like me. Same suit, same posture, same nervous scar across my eyebrow, but the smile didn't belong to me. It stretched too wide, it didn't reach the eyes. It lifted a hand and waved too. And then the copy began to drift toward me, slow and smooth, like it didn't need to move its limbs at all. Like space itself was carrying it. I didn't think. I launched past them both. I slammed the shuttle hatch and started the emergency launch sequence. My hands shook so violently I missed the first few keystrokes and had to re-enter the codes manually. I could barely read through the sweat streaking across my display visor. Outside the window, Eidolon rotated slowly. I saw Connor's body drift upward. I saw the copy of me float beside him, face still smiling. I hit the launch command, with 14 seconds left on the timer. The shuttle pulled away with a low vibration, thrusters firing in bursts. I didn't look back again. I couldn't. I just sat there in the pilot's seat, suit soaked through, chest heaving. Eidolon shrank in the distance, but even as it faded from view, I felt it. They didn't debrief me. Not really. When the shuttle docked back at Aletheia, no one greeted me. The bay was already sealed and cleared. Two figures in pressurized hazmat suits pulled me out without saying a word. They didn't ask questions. They didn't give me time to explain. They didn't even let me remove my helmet until I was fully quarantined. When I finally saw Commander Hellman again, she wouldn't meet my eyes. "You're being reassigned, Claire," she said, her voice flat. "Effective immediately. To where? Medical leave, until further notice." She handed me a sealed envelope. No name, no signature. Just a plain slip with 3 words typed in all caps. "Do not speak." No report, no inquiry, no mission review, just silence. They knew what happened. Maybe not every detail, but enough. Enough to shut it down. To shut me down. Whatever Eidolon was, whatever it became, they were never planning to destroy it. They were studying it, and we were the test run. I wasn't supposed to come back. I spent 3 weeks under observation in a private medical unit once I returned to Earth. No contact with the outside world. No calls. No visitors. They checked my blood every day. Scanned my brain 3 times a week. They even tested my reflection in different mirrors, said it was routine neurological imaging. But I knew what they were looking for. Sometimes, late at night, I still see those faces in glass, reflections that lag half a second behind, ones that smile when I don't. Worse than that, sometimes I hear my name whispered in static, not out loud. In the quiet, in the hiss of an empty radio, in the flicker of a muted screen, in the echo of a shower stall when no one else is home. And every time I look up, I expect to see her. The other me. I never saw the final report. If it was written at all, it's locked somewhere under so many clearance levels it might as well not exist. Dr. Alvarez is listed as deceased due to suit failure. Jason and Connor are marked as missing during extravehicular activity. There's no mention of Eidolon Station, but I saw the launch logs last week, buried under a pile of unrelated telemetry data on an unsecured server I wasn't supposed to access. Eidolon's orbit was adjusted. They didn't abandon it, they moved it. They're keeping it close. Controlled. Like a lab sample they don't want to contaminate, but won't destroy. That means they're not done. That means more missions, more teams, more bait. I wasn't the first, I know that now. I saw the patch on that creature's suit. Reyes. There are probably more names, more lost missions. We just don't hear about them because no one comes back from Eidolon. Except me. And sometimes I wonder if I really did. Sometimes I wonder if what came back was just a copy that didn't know it wasn't real. But that's not the part that keeps me awake. It's the voice I hear at night, my own voice, whispering from the mirror, saying my name, and then smiling.